Welcome back, everybody. In this video, I'm going to wire up a switch panel alongside with some camp lights that I wanted to try out. So without wasting much time, let's just roll right into it. So coincidentally, I was just finishing up my dual battery setup on the Sequoia using parts that I had from the Tundra build. I was debating whether I want to wire up all my accessories, just standalone with their own relays, everything like that. And AUXBEAM reached out wanting to collaborate on a video. I told them about an idea I had about doing a switch panel and incorporating that into some camp lights. My idea was to do some off the side rack as well as the back hatch area where I have my drawers. That way I can kind of see as I'm cooking and stuff like that at night while camping. So I had the plan to use rock lights instead of just normal light bars or something like that. I didn't want anything overly bright. I just wanted some scene lights for the area so I can see what's going on, but have the ability to dim. So that's why I was looking at rock lights with different accessories like a Bluetooth controller. That way I can dim and control them from the comfort of a campfire. I wanted the ability to dim my lighting down or change colors. Most times they'll be white, but I wanted the ability to go to like a red light or something like that just to kind of light the area at night. It's not too obstructive, but it helps out so you don't trip over things. So full disclosure, AUXBEAM did send me these. I got 2 sets of 4 rock lights, one here and then one opened here. Then they sent me their 8-gang RGB switch, which is Bluetooth enabled. It has different modes. You can go toggle on off, do momentary, or you can do pulse controls. So all this is editable within an app, and that to me was perfect, especially if I wanted to trigger some of this stuff while I'm not in the driver's seat. If I'm sitting around camp or something like that, I want to turn on some lights, I can do it just from my phone. So let's open this up and take a look, see what's inside. So unlike their other one, you can change the colors within the app as well. But if we open this up, you get the manual along with some stickers and all of the stickers for all the different modes. 60 different stickers you can choose from. Handles quite a bit. Nice color instructions with pictures, easy to follow along. Here's our 8-gang switch panel, single wire coming off the back. It's nice aluminum construction, nice buttons. And their fuse box and relay assembly. Open this up. So cover has some extra fuses in it. And this is good for 60 amps total. The first 2 are actually set for a max of 30 amps. And even though they have this rated, the 5, 10, 20 amp circuits here, these 3 through 8 banks actually can handle 20 amps each. So you just can't go over 60 amps with everything in total. What's nice about this, it does have solid state relays inside. With your accessories, you don't have to wire up your fuses, then your relay, then power to each accessory going to its own switch. This just minimizes it. It all comes to here. Single red and black go to your accessory, and they'll toggle it through the accessory switch. Different brackets here. This is for the switch panel. I'm actually going to be using something a little different on mine, but this is a nice alternative. It kind of gives you a universal mount. Mount on a vertical, you can mount on a horizontal, point up this way, as well as this is a flush mount one. So it rests in here, screw it down, nice and flat. We got the master switch. This triggers it. You can connect this here to your ignition. That way the panel turns on and off with your car, alongside with one of these add fuses. You tap into like your ignition or another fuse. Comes with a screwdriver, all the hardware, which will be nice. Got our cable for the switch panel. And we have our 60 amp resettable circuit breaker, along with the battery cables already done with heat shrink, which is nice. Can't have too many zip ties. So it does come with different mounting options for your fuse box. So especially since all your wires will come out the bottom side here. That way they're kind of hidden. So having one of these brackets is nice. Kind of gives some adjustability. So this is made to wire off your starting battery, which is why you could tap into your ignition to trigger it. I'm setting this up for kind of my adventure rig. I do have a dual battery setup. So when I wire this, it is actually going to be wired through my second battery. Reason being is I want every single accessory of mine to be isolated from the starting battery. That way it doesn't drain my battery when I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I can always start up. And if something does drain, I do have a little jump start box as well. But because of that, I'm actually going to tap this so it's always live. That way, if I'm sitting around camp, I don't have to go put my key in my ignition to go start my camp light setup. With that in mind, let me show you what I did with the dual battery setup. That way you can see where I'm at. I already have some stuff pre-wired, so I'll show you that, and I'll show you how I'm going to tie into the new system. So this is the brains of my dual battery setup from parts mostly that I had from the Tundra that I was going to build. So my second battery here is a Duracell Group 31 AGM battery. It's 105 amp hours, and that is being charged by my RedArc BCDC 1225D. I do have main power coming in and feeding the RedArc here, which then goes and ties up into my battery. Coming off the battery, we do have a shunt, which goes back to my voltmeter back there. That way I can see where my battery levels are at. From the shunt, I do have a shut-off switch that I can just quickly break the ground off of all my accessories. Like I said, all my accessories are coming off of this battery, so if I shut it off, it essentially kills all my accessories. From there, I go into a bus bar that is basically my common ground for everything. I have one that goes to the frame. From there, I have one that goes into my RedArc. And then I also have one for this Blue Sea fuse panel here. So similarly on the positive side, I do have bus bar that goes, I have 3 different feeds coming off of it. One that feeds the Blue Sea 6 fuse panel. So I have that powered here, and that is for constant items like my fridge. I have a cigarette adapter up here. And then I have one going to the RedArc. And then I have this third one right here. It comes down to a 60 amp circuit breaker. So this is what I'm actually going to tie in the new AUXBEAM system into. They included a 60 amp circuit breaker. I already have one wired that I had for future. And essentially it runs from the battery into the circuit breaker, into this Anderson plug, which goes through my panel here, down across the carpet, my jack support, which has one coming from the main battery to the RedArc, and the other one is from that circuit breaker down the loop, around and through. These are some firewall pass-throughs. So on the underside, I'm going to attach a wire to that and go down, across, and go all the way to the engine compartment where I'm going to put the AUXBEAM fuse panel. So this is a 1/0 cable. I also plan to do another bus bar in the engine compartment that I can tap for my air compressor and stuff like that. That's going to be on its own system. So I'm going to run another 1/0 cable all the way to the front across the frame rail. But everything's pretty much done in here. I do plan to rewire back here and kind of clean it up a little bit. After I wired it, I thought of a better way. But for now, it works, gets power. This battery was sitting for a couple years. I do plan to change it out with a lithium one day, but I just kind of wanted to use what I had. Get things up and running. Let's get to it. We already got the first part of the wiring done, which is the red to the circuit breaker. If you were off your main starting battery, you just put your circuit breaker by that main starting battery, do the red wire going to the fuse panel the same way I'm going to. I just have to go the long way from the back going front.
Everything's alright with a violet sky on my skin. Ooh, baby, I feel high with a violet sky on my skin. Let me breathe deep, let me get away. There's no place else I'd rather be. Ooh, everything's alright.
I still have to zip tie it down below, but got it ran up to the bus bar up here. And then I went through and got the bracket mounted here. Made sure it was clear of the hood shock here. But I do plan to mount this right off the side. Should be a nice gap for that shock to come through. Excuse me if I have a scratchy voice, I'm getting over being sick. But I'm going to be bolting this here. I could probably get a little closer. I do have to see the clearance with here. But I'm going to bolt this here. I do have to run a power to the red here, and then I'll run a ground. I'm going to find a ground. I might run it to this point right here. So, and that'll feed all the power here, and then I could test out the switch to make sure it all works and everything like that. Make sure it's getting power correctly from the second battery. So let's go ahead and bolt this thing down, run its other line, and go from there. Alright, I did cut this thing down. That way it kind of cleans up my wiring a little bit. Before I tighten this down too much, I will have to actually run from the signal wire that basically tells this thing to turn on. So I am going to just hot wire it directly into the power coming in. That way it's always alive. Since this is off my second battery, it'll be isolated from my starting battery. Now if you're just using the main battery to power this thing, you can just run this off of one of the ignition fuses, or if you can find something else that's triggered by the ignition, they do give that little fuse link so you could tap into one of the fuses and just kind of piggyback off of that, and that would just tie into that spot there. So it's starting to get a little windy and snowy outside, so I had to pull into the garage. Fortunately, without my rooftop tent, I can fit in here now. So last little bit is I'm just going to take my ground, connect it to here, and I'm actually going to just go to one of my stock ground locations. And after that, I'm going to plug in the switch just to make sure all the controls work, everything's powered the way it should. Then we have to route the wire for the switch through my firewall into my center console. I'll probably go through a firewall grommet for that, but for now, let's just get the ground, let's get this thing hot and ready to go. Ideally, if I ran it through here the first time, I wouldn't have had to trim that red wire. So actually the length that it came would have been perfect. So I'm kind of stringing it away I normally wouldn't, just because I'm too short. I'll probably replace it. I have a lot of 4-gauge wire that'll run perfect. But for now, I'll just keep this, make sure it all works. But yeah, make sure you're routing it the right way when you're going to do this. But other than that, I got the bus bar all on. Cover is secure. Let's make sure. Cover secure, that way nothing could ground out on there. So now I just have to run the ground cable to that point, and then we'll be good. Alright, so we're going to take something to test. I'm going to use one of the rock lights that I'm going to use. I'm going to put it on one of these ports. And I did connect this directly to power just to make sure it works. Just with a single light. I didn't know if I had to download the app first just to trigger it. But we'll get the switch on here. Good news, switch lights up. And the light turns on. Awesome. It's always good when it works. All right, jeez, it's bright. Okay, now we know that works. I can run this, and I did get the extension just in case. I didn't know if I needed the extension to get all the way to the center console, so it was kind of just a precaution. So we'll route this. I'm going to route it to the driver's side and go through the firewall grommet over there and feed it through. So I got the wire for the control panel routed across the firewall here and then drops down. A tip if you have problems like I did getting through the firewall. So there was a little plug that I had to cut off just to open up that slot. Had a heck of a time trying to get through the grommet. It just was gripping so tight. I just used some blaster silicone and sprayed it on. It went in just a few seconds after I sprayed this on. So definitely recommend it if you're having trouble with that firewall grommet. So on the inside here, so now I have to route this wire up kind of underneath it and zip tie it to some wires. And it should actually be just enough without the extension to get to where I want. So I'm going to put it right here in the panel. But let me string that up and get it to where it pokes through here. And then we'll get the panel on. Now for the Sequoia guys and I guess the double cap Tundras, I think they share the same panel here. I've been kind of trying to prototype a panel to go in here that can use the factory Toyota glass break sensor. I think that's what these are. So I've been kind of designing a little panel here. Back in, clips in like the stock one. I got it now to where it clips in nice. I think it's pretty much done. This one here I will kind of sand down and paint. But for install purposes, making sure it works, I want to get it in there. I will do a follow-up video on this panel specifically, because that will be available once I kind of get my website up and going. Price is $3.99. More on that later on what I mean. But yeah, so I did route the cable. It's right here. It's perfect without the extension. And then I will get this in, and kind of like I said, I made this thing and matched the factory panel. That way, if I put it in the right way, any of these Toyota switches just snap right in. They snap just like the factory one does. And then we can plug it on the back side. So plug that in there. Get our switch. The way this goes in, drops from the bottom and clips in the top. And now it's in. So I do have one of the rock lights down here just to kind of see. This is without touching anything on the app. So you can see light turns on, light turns off. So they do have this app here. I'll put it on the side of the screen. So we'll go ahead and download the app. It's just a QR code on the box that you take a picture of. Switch panel, we like to use Bluetooth, yes. So I think this is for the, let's see the icons here. Alright, so I got the app installed. There is one thing I kind of want to point out when you're connecting it. When you go through it to connect it, you're going to actually hit the Bluetooth on the upper left. Turn on Bluetooth. Mine shows connected in green. What happened was at the bottom, it had a white box with white text. It was under this unconnect. So I thought it was saying it was not connected. So I ended up, after playing with it for a little bit, I just hit that and then it connected and put it under the connect slot in green. So now it's there, it's going. Just if you have that problem of it's not finding it or you don't think it's finding it, there is a white box. If you kind of turn your screen, you'll see there's text on it. Now that we got that on, we'll go back. So you can see the colors change with however you set it. Once I get the stickers on, I'll compare it to my green of the Sequoia, which all the interior lights are green. So then we go across and we can do, let's see, icon. I will just hit one of the ones on the bottom right. Hit, let's see, I like that. We'll call them awning lights. Hit select. And then my other one is going to be default light. So what do I want to call them? Lots of choices here. Cargo lights. That's what I wanted. Select. Right now for my test sequence, it's actually on this left one here. We'll go through and just set that. Our test one, we'll just put it under a rock since it's the rock lights. So we got that in. If we go to mode. So mode here, you can set each switch to be either toggle, momentary, or pulsed. For our test one here, we'll set the rock. And if we want it under momentary, let's see, momentary, if I push this, this light up here now turns blue, which goes along with the momentary. So if I push that, you can see as soon as I let go, the light turns off. If I do pulsed, well, this should be fun. Let's see, if I hold it, it's going to sit there and pulse. And then we can up the intensity, kind of get a party once you get all of them going on. So slow them down. For all my stuff, I am going to have everything on toggle. So if I just turn on, stays on, off. Just what I want right there. You can group different parameters. I don't have anything that I would group, but you can go through and do that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that. So you can turn everything on and off. And you can also dim the switch. You can see it dims a little bit. Icon, set icon name. Ooh, let's see. I think dark mode is what's messing this up. So I have dark mode always enabled on my phone. So that is one thing. If you can't read certain things, like you can see the white box with the white text, that's kind of what I noticed before. I think that has to do with dark mode being on my phone. There we go. Everything's easy to see now. So that's how it should look. Black text. It's because the dark mode kind of messed that up. So if you have trouble reading it, it's due to your dark mode either. You just kind of have to deal with it or just switch it to light mode. So set icon name, now you can read all this. So let's see, we can call this like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more videos. Alright, so that's part one of doing the cargo lights that I want to do. I am going to make a follow-up video just to keep this a little more organized. So part one was installing the switch panel. We got to work, had a little hiccup with the app, but it was really just my blindness and having dark mode on. If I didn't have dark mode on, I would have seen that and been able to hit it. For the Sequoia people that want to see more on that panel, I will be making another video just on that with more of what I'm doing with that. I have an idea. That'll probably actually be my next video I post, along with the rock light interior light setup that I'm going to do. Thank you for watching this. Install went great. Issues I had were pretty much my own, but I will say the quality of the switch panel is great. The instructions weren't the best written, but with the pictures and everything like that, it's really easy. Basically, the panel needs power, and then you just have 2 wires from your accessories going straight to the switch, and it works. So I am going to go inside for the afternoon. It is getting cold out here in Colorado. We got, I think, some snow coming. I'm going to go inside, warm up since I was just sick. I don't want to get sick anymore. And next video will be the rock lights. All right, have a good one.